Many House Republicans celebrated Thursday after passing their version of a tax reform bill. Ahead of the vote, President Trump appeared on the Hill to rally GOP members. Mr. Trump wants to pass major legislation before the end of the year. Chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes reports.
House Republicans cheered as their tax plan passed with votes to spare.
We are in a generational defining moment for our country.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 shrinks the number of brackets from 7 to 4, lowering rates and eliminating some deductions. The Independent Tax Policy Center estimates that Americans who make between $50,000 and $90,000 a year would get an average tax cut next year of about $800.
The tax is going really well. Thank you.
President Trump took a victory lap on Capitol Hill. He pushed for the bill's huge corporate rate cut. But Democrats warned the GOP will pay a political price for passing a plan that primarily benefits big business and the wealthy.
Republicans want you to believe that their trickle-down tax break for the rich will pay for itself. Never has happened.
A dozen Republicans from New York, New Jersey, and California voted no today because the bill eliminates the deduction for state and local taxes.
I just have too many constituents who are going to see their taxes go up.
But most House Republicans were ecstatic. And they're now anxiously watching the Senate, where a separate GOP plan has gone through several rapid revisions.
I say, relax.
South Carolina's Tim Scott is one of the Senate plan's authors.
Are you convinced that workers will benefit from all these tax breaks that their employers are going to get?
If we do not reform our business taxes, more jobs that are today in America will be in another country. So the answer is simple. Absolutely.
Senate Republicans are hoping to pass their plan out of the Finance Committee on Friday and then bring it up for a full Senate vote right after Thanksgiving. Then the House and Senate plans would have to be reconciled. Republicans from the House and Senate will have to get in a room and figure out how to turn those two plans into one and then vote again, a process that President Trump is urging them to finish up, Elaine, by Christmas.
Well, Nancy, we saw some of this in your piece, but what was the general feeling on Capitol Hill after the bill passed?
Well, House Republicans were elated. Aside from health care reform, there's nothing that they have wanted to do more than reform the nation's tax code and cut corporate and individual taxes. In fact, I have been hearing not just from this speaker, but the previous speaker, John Boehner, for years that this was a top priority to cut taxes, and the politics have always simply been too difficult, and they never really got very far. So the fact that the House was able to pretty quickly craft a plan and pass it, albeit without any Democratic votes, is a pretty major accomplishment, and House Republicans were thrilled that it worked out. And that's why you saw the president take the unusual step of coming here to Capitol Hill to sort of hold a pep rally with them, a private pep rally. We saw a few pictures emerging from that room, but basically he was celebrating the House Republicans who had managed to craft this plan in such a way that almost all of their own members stuck together and voted yes, despite what Democrats say are perilous politics. They argue that voters who already have said in polling that they don't think that this plan will primarily benefit them. They think it's going to benefit the wealthy. So Democrats argue that Republicans are going to pay a price in 2018 as those voters go to the polls.
Well, Nancy, I want to ask you about this Senate plan. Republican Senator Ron Johnson says he will vote no because he says it benefits larger corporations over small businesses. And Senator Susan Collins is criticizing the bill for combining a tax cut plan with a partial repeal of Obamacare. Is the Senate plan in jeopardy?
You know, if there are only a couple of Republicans at the end of the day who vote no in the Senate, then no, they can afford to lose to Republicans. And Senator Johnson, although he says he doesn't support the current plan, has expressed a lot of optimism that he is going to be able to work with Republican leaders to make some changes that satisfy him at the end of the day. He's a big supporter of tax cuts. He just thinks that small businesses should get a lot of the same breaks that corporations are getting in the plan. So I think at the end of the day, you'll see him come around. The issues that Senator Collins has with the bill, on the other hand, are more fundamental. She simply doesn't believe that repealing the individual mandate from Obamacare as part of a tax plan is the right way to go. And Republican leaders are less likely to make a change of that proportion for her, because if they do that, essentially what they'd be doing is leaving a $300 billion hole in their plan. They'd need to find that money somewhere else. And so as long as she's the only Republican who has that criticism, they can risk a no vote from Susan Collins. They could even risk a second no vote from Lisa Murkowski, for example, of Alaska, who was an opponent of the health care plan. But after that, they've got to be really careful, because they can't afford any more defections, and they are certainly not going to get Democratic votes, Elaine.
All right. Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.